Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing, and this video is a for you Mopar guys. This head was sent in, and the customer asked me if I would do a product review on this head, which I will. And what I'll do by that is I will take it apart and show you the ports and do some rough measurements. But the biggest thing is I'm going to float on my flow bench, and you'll get the actual flow numbers for this head. Now, like I said, if you want it done on any head you have, just send it in. It's 30 bucks. I'll do the little video for you and you can watch it yourself. However, a lot of people are really curious about this head anyway, so let me tell you what it is. This is a 440 source Mopar head. Now, this one, of course, is CNC ported, as you could tell. So I'm just going to give you my honest review on what I think it is. And remember, these are my opinions. You're welcome to your own. I'm going to give you this. I will say at the end of this video, I am going to do an S10 update, but I don't want to clutter it up, so the beginning of this video is just about this head. So here we go. It's CNC ported and looks pretty good, to be quite honest with you. The CNC ports don't look that bad, except for there is a step here, and it looks like they could have just dragged their program out a little bit further. I don't know where this head is actually cast. Like it says 440 source, but I don't know anything about as far as its origin, whether it be American casting or not. So I don't have an answer to that. I know some people want to ask. I don't know. Clearly they're assembled. And the only thing I don't like, it's got 7-degree locks. But the reason why I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal on this thing is because it looks like it's a hydraulic flat tappet spring, because it's a single spring, or a solid flat tappet. So you can get away with the 7-degree retainer, in my opinion, on those. You can use them on others. I just don't prefer it. So anyway, there's that part of it. Here's the thing I can absolutely hated when I saw it. The chambers. And I don't know anything about this, but if this head was cast and by 440 source and they asked to make their own specific head, where did this chamber idea come from? This is the most inefficient chamber you could come up with. Yeah, I'm sure they were trying to just copy what a Mopar 906 is, but I haven't seen a Mopar 906 head in my shop in at least 10 years, so I can't remember exactly what the chamber looked like. But if that's what they were going for, maybe, except for this is so inefficient. If you're going to do a new high-performance casting and do all the CNC port work and everything else, why in the world would you have such a horrible chamber? And you're like, what makes it horrible? Well, let me do a quick drawing to show you what I mean by what it should be and what it's not. Okay, this is a crude drawing, but you'll hopefully get the idea. What we're looking for around the throat area, which I'll take off a valve here in a second, I'll show you, is the right and around the seat thing, and I'll show you when I take the valve off. But the throat area is really going to be where we have a venturi effect, which should be something like this, where the air comes in, the throat should be somewhere in this area, and then we have so that's the convergent, where it's converging, and divergent zone, where it's leaving the throat. And we want to see this where it breaks up like this. That's the ideal. Well, of course, there's no straight ports, at least that I know of, in an engine, because we have valve and other things to worry about. So most ports are tilted this way. However, we still have the same principle. You have a convergent right here, right? This would be our throat, and a divergent, which would be the end of the top cut of the valve job extending out to the chambers, and it spreads that air out over this area, which then would spread it out, of course, over the piston. That should be down here. Horrible drawing, and you get the idea. So more of the mixture is spread out more of the area of the bore. Instead of keeping it pretty much converged in one area, it's spreading it out so that it makes, covers more of the piston area. You get the idea. Anyway, if you have a tighter ball, it's like if you tried to burn a chunk of wood, but only could burn the outside. So if we break the wood up into dust, it instantly lights. Hopefully that's a horrible probably analogy, but hopefully you get the idea with that. Here's what this head is. This is just like this, and forget the angles, just random drawing. You have it come in here, and the only divergent zone is right at the top cut, right there. And I haven't taken apart it again to see how much actual top cut it has. But that's all that there is. It comes off that and then flat, which really means the air is really going to spread out barely this way, and it's really just going to be random. It won't go where you want. It's more going to stay in this general area, and it's just not ideal at all. So this chamber design is what was used in the 70s, and it wasn't good then, and it shouldn't be good now. So some of you argue me like, well, yeah, it makes a bunch of power. Yes, it probably still makes plenty of power, But I don't like the chamber because I think if you had a more of a modern chamber, like a heart-shaped, such as you see in your small block Ford, your LSs, any of the good stuff, which I really do feel bad for the Mopar guys because there's other ones that are better or probably do a better job with the chamber. And they're more heart-shaped and it's just better. This, it's not. What it may be better for is, I'll try to see the benefit in it, if you're running nitrous, because it's going to slow everything else down. And it's not efficient for that. So it would be perfect for nitrous because the burn's not great, maybe. That's maybe the only other thing I could see that would be, yeah. The only other thing I thought when I saw this was, holy margin, Batman. And maybe because the chambers aren't crowded to it, you could see the margin of the valve more, but geez, there's a lot of margin. And you got to have some anyway, but that's a lot. I mean, it probably just feels that way because the chamber's not wrapped around it and kind of hiding it better. Maybe that's it, but you could see. Anyway, I'm going to take it apart and let you see the inside, and I'll take some rough measurements, and then, of course, I'll flow it and I'll give you the flow numbers. All right, here's the shot from it being taken apart. As you could tell here, we have the better view for you guys, in case you're wondering. And I'll go ahead and tell you. The valve size measured 2.14 on the intake and 1.80 on the exhaust. A couple of things I would have done differently maybe is, and by the way, the throat was 90.5% and the bowl was 98.4. Those aren't that bad actually, but the thing I don't like is there's, which you can't see from the video, and that's one disadvantage of video. It's not a smooth transition. It's pretty rough. And you can see this on the video. This is the seat angle. That's the undercut, and then not. So really it's only 3 angles. And what I mean is you barely, so this is the seat. This is the top cut. There's nothing hardly, not near enough. And then it goes, this part right here is actually the seat itself. So top cut seat, where the valve sits, I should say, and barely an undercut. It's not ideal at all. If I were doing it, I probably would have put a bigger intake valve in, like it, because a 214 for a 440 is really small. I mean, 440 cubic inches, forget this brand. That's kind of smaller to me, especially on a big block size, because most of you are probably running some kind of stroker combinations or even bigger than that. But I would have gone with a bigger valve. The catch is the seats are interlocking, so part of your seat would have been riding on, part of your seat that the valve's actually sitting on, you're riding on part of this. So I guess if I was designing it, I probably would have made this seat a little bit smaller, which there's plenty of room to do, and made this one bigger to make up for it. It has a 1-800 exhaust valve, which is fine. And it does have a slight, you know, that's the seat where it's sitting. And that's your undercuts. Not much there. So overall, that part actually doesn't look that bad. They did leave a ledge right here in the chamber, but, and I didn't bring this up before, there's no need in CNC porting this chamber. There's, if anything, you need to add material, not take it away. So you're like, why didn't they CNC the chamber? Because you shouldn't. It should be adding. So I give them credit for not trying to. Anyway, things look fine. There's a little bit of ledge there, but that's from where the seat went in, because it's not because of the valve job, because there's a huge area. I hope you can see it better right there where the valve job is not at, because that's the top cut. That's actually the seat itself. However, the biggest thing I did spot that I don't know why they didn't do this was I pulled the valve out. This is the intake valve. It has no back cut. That angle you see here, and I'll put it down so I can show you. They're right in. Nope. This is where the seat is, where it actually sits on the head. There's no back cut. And you're like, so? Well, the disadvantage of this is the back cut helps with the lower lift flow, like pretty much all the way to about 500. For 500, it's kind of wash. 600 on, not having a back cut makes you flow more. But it's really, you almost always make more power having a back cut on the valve. On every intake valve I ever do, they have a back cut. This one doesn't. It should, I think, in my personal opinion, you should have a back cut. It's going to flow more. I can tell you right now, the low lift flows are not going to be good. A couple things working against it. No back cut, not enough angles on the valve job, not enough top cut, horrible chamber. This thing's not going to be that good down low. And I mean at 400 lift, because I really care 4.6 and peak. And 400 is not going to be good. I could tell you for what this is. So anyway, there's that. The exhaust port really does look pretty good though. It's a pretty good size, in case you're wondering. Oh, you're like, well, they did a horrible job. Because I know some people said that's a shadow. That's just because the casting moves. You know, this core shift or whatnot. so the machine won't always touch it. So everybody thinks sometimes, CNC ported heads are amazing. They're all going to be the same. If they use a CNC core, which is really smaller, really small head, usually they are, but not necessarily on stuff like this, because it can vary just because the core itself shifts and the program's cutting where there's no material there. And that's why you see that. It's not I would say it's a very small change. I'm just bringing it up because you can tell the shadow is right there on that one when it's not on this one. Get the idea? All right, so might as well put it on the bench because I know that's what you're really looking for. So let me put it on the bench and flow it and see what it does. Okay, the head's on the flow bench. My Sanya's Digital 680. I didn't put it on the Super Flow. Too much work. Anyway, this is a 4310 bore, and it's a Brzezinski slider, and I floated just like it is. I didn't use an exhaust pipe, and here are the numbers. By the way, I did get a new printer. A cheap HP one from Walmart. After 5 hours of messing with the software, I finally got it to work without being hooked to the internet. Anyway, here are the numbers. So if you look at them, they're not setting the world on fire. For something that's this big, as far as what this will go on, I should say, as big as the engine that's going on, this really isn't that much flow. So if you look at the 400 number, this is what I mean without a back cut. 236 CFM, it's extremely low. So if this was a small block Chevy head, say a 350, you got a good one. For a 440 cubic inch engine, you're gonna be airflow limited. So, because you look 235 at 4, at 6 it's 273, and it hits a peak of 286 at 8. Now I couldn't go higher just because the valve actually hit the retainer. The retainer hit the seal because I didn't take the seals off the valves. So that's as far as I could go anyway. But yeah, that's what it is. So peak flow 286, 235 at 4 is really low. Exhaust really wasn't that bad, although again, it's extremely lacking for the size of motor that it's going to go on. So at 4 it's 175, which isn't bad, and at peak it's at 214 without an exhaust pipe. Again, it's not horrible. It's just it's not enough for the cubic inches that it's going to feed. So I don't have any other heads that I have here, like as far as different ones to compare with. I did have an Edelbrock 440 Performer RPM air gap. Sorry, I don't know why I said air gap. I have a 440 Edelbrock Performer RPM heads that are here. I've got to clean them up, then I'll flow those. Then you can kind of get a comparison of how these are. I have ported a set of Pro Comps, I've ported a set of Victor Edelbrocks and RPMs, but I don't have the numbers handy to compare with, but I'm just showing you this one. So this is what it flows. That's for my review of it. It's a nice head. It really does look like it's well done. It just, to me, doesn't move enough air for the cubic inches. But if you're just trying to go do better in something stock, I am sure it's probably leaps and bounds ahead of a stock casting. So anyway, that concludes this part of the film. And thanks for watching this far. For those that are wanted the S10 update, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. So if this is the only thing you worried about was the 440 head, you can go ahead and stop the video. Here's an update on the S10. The shop is a disaster. I am actually paying someone to come to my shop to pull the transmission, which he has done. He has pulled the Turbo 350 and has replaced it with the Power Glide. I've got so much stuff in the shop right now, it's a disaster. There's a Turbo 350 that was in it, because everybody kept wondering. Yes, it was from TCI. I did not make that up. I bought it new from them, not used. So there it is. Inside right now, it's been replaced, is a BTE Power Glide. It's their Sportsman one. It's rated to 2,500 horsepower. It's got the aftermarket case and stuff, so I'm not worried about it getting hurt. However, I did want to bring up this. Several people or some person had asked, and I can't remember their name, I suck with names, but they had said they're a transmission shop, and he even came down here, which makes it even worse. I don't know if he still even watches my videos, but he said, I'll be happy to take apart the transmission and take a look at it and see what to be done. If you are that person and you're willing to do it for free, I know you're like free, yeah, I'll let you take it apart and put it back together and everything, because eventually you probably get another use, but I am curious what's inside of it. I'm not trying to be a beggar or nothing. If you can't, that's no big deal. It's just going to sit out of the way for a while, and eventually it'll get tore down anyway. When the fluid came out, by the way, it wasn't burnt. Everything looked really good, actually. I reused the torque converter and put it in the, to go with this power glide. So it's the same torque converter that was on this is now in this. It was working fine. Like I said, there was the transmission fluid didn't smell burnt at all. It was still a good red color. I made a hell of a mess, I'll tell you that. But yeah, so anyway, there's an update on that. If you or someone that wants to take apart this and put it back together and bring it back to me, I'll be happy to get it to you, or somehow come down to get me. Either way, we'll work something out. But there's the update on the S10. Oh, I forgot other things. And more importantly, underneath these, I have bought slicks, which are rare, 28-10-5 tires, because they're out of almost everywhere. And I'm over all my garbage here. I have the new rims, and I'm gonna put the rim screw template on it for the rear. So yeah, the thing is though, the guy that I'm hiring is probably gonna end up doing it because I don't have any time. So I'm too busy with all that. So anyway, thanks for watching the video, and keep watching. Maybe you'll see this get done sometime. By the way, I want you to know, I feel horrible not working on my own vehicle, but I need to get customer stuff done. It pains me having someone else work on it, and I'm paying someone. Because then I feel like those guys are like, I've got a stage 1 tune and cam in my car that they paid someone to do. I've turned into that guy. So who knows, next thing I know, maybe I'll pay someone to mow my yard. Thank God it's winter. That's one less thing I don't have to worry about. Anyway, thanks for watching. You guys take care.